This is another episode of Conversation at a Bar. Right now, we're here at Chandeleur, Gulfport, Mississippi, downtown. Was it 14th Street?
Yep, 14th Street.
Yes.
2711 14th
That's where we do the
Street.
Pink Dress Run. We do a lot of cool events here, Shandy Fest. This year at Shandy Fest, Carter's Champions actually won the arm wrestling contest. Andrew beat a girl.
Yep.
If you want to see that trophy, it's at Chillville. Kelly took the trophy. It was a great time.
Yeah.
Can the guests tell, who are you?
I'm Katie Turner. I'm the brewmaster of Chandeleur Island Brewing Company. And I'm happy to be here.
So do you make beer?
Oh, yeah. Build the recipes, run the production in the back, and make sure everybody gets their thirst quenched.
Okay. Why beer? What got you into that's a niche. There's a lot of people that the first time I seen a beer kit was a beer making kit at Dillard's.
Yep.
Father's Day.
Yep.
But
I actually bought my dad that gift.
Did you?
No lie. It was like my third year here, and I was like, all right, Dad keeps asking a bunch of questions. I'm like, here you go. Just throw it under the bus.
Did he use it?
No, it sat in the corner, and he just kept saying, can you just keep bringing me your beer?
And it's the same brown one.
Same one you can get off of Amazon.
So let's dive into this a little bit. This is just for me. When did you first find the love? Do you remember that the first time that you got a part of doing any type of brew? I know we talked a few times, and you've also have a wine background.
Yeah, so that was actually the first time I really brewed. It was my first year into enology school. We did a little backyard boil in a giant crock pot, a crawfish bowl pot, and did some stirring with a wooden stick, like old school, there was really no temperature control or anything like that. And that was kind of like my first grain meets water experience. And I enjoyed it,
Can you use that in like a dumb it down term for me?
Like what?
You just said, what was it? Meat and water meets?
Like grain meets water.
Yeah, okay.
Starting to convert your starches into sugars.
Okay.
So that was really my first experience. I was wearing cowboy boots, hanging out with a bunch of winemakers and just kind of kicking it and seeing what we could do. I also learned about tinctures then and kind of sort of fermentation or analysis
Was the first batch drinkable?
I would call it drinkable. I wouldn't call it wanted to drink it. It wasn't desirable for me, but we did it. We were able to make a wort and add some hops in, and fermentation went smoothly. But as far as, meeting those temperature marks and being able to get the water or like the mouthfeel to feel great and, the flavor profiles that we were theoretically looking for, that didn't happen that first go around. But again, I was just a helping hand. It wasn't my hand doing this.
But it kind of lit something inside of you. Or you're like, okay, I could do something like this.
Yeah, it was more of like challenge accepted. I can do better.
The wine scene down here, shout out to Daryl Bailey, passed away. It's my buddy's dad, but he worked at Jackson County Sewer, and he loved making wine.
Yeah.
Blueberry wine. Was it Muscadine?
Muscadine.
Mm-hmm. And he'd always have it, sitting around. And of course, 15, 16. I mean, he had 5-gallon jug.
Yeah.
We'd take a little bit here, a little bit there.
Mm-hmm.
And it got to a point now that was our first, really bring into alcohol for us.
Mm-hmm.
It was that blueberry wine. And he knew what we were doing.
Yep.
But as long as we didn't leave his house, it was fine. And that was our first experience. I mean, you had 2 glasses of that.
Yeah.
And you were done.
Uh-huh.
And that was my first take on homemade wine.
What was his percentage? Do you have any idea?
No, I don't think he knew. He knew. He knew. I mean, he knew, but it was high.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a wine. It was a very.
Are we talking 14 ABV, 18 ABV? Where are we going here?
I would say he also did moonshine, like a moon. It was strong. A lot of stuff. He was because his drink of choice was Canadian Mist water.
Okay.
So he always swing front porch. It's like a home project.
All right.
And that was my first first time ever having wine. And then I remember going to a restaurant, years later, and I never got into wine. And I had a $200 bottle of wine. and it tasted like shit. And they were like, everybody was being all high and mighty about it.
Like, ooh, this is perfect.
What is this?
Yeah.
But that's my experience with wine. It's always been like a homemade wine.
Well, what's crazy about, you can spend a $200 bottle of wine and you could get it and it could be oxidized, or it could have a contaminant in it, or get cork taint or something like that, and you're like, dang it. But you would have no idea that actually occurred until you open the bottle and you're like, oh, that sucks.
What's the
hit or miss.
Now, so from wine to beer, it's a big difference in brewing, correct? Or is it similar?
You're still taking a base, like you're taking your wine grapes and pulling those sugars out and then fermenting, and like with malt, you're pulling out the starch, converting those starches into sugars and then fermenting. So they're very similar, but I would say in like a lab setting, very different. You want to do your TAs and your VAs and all of that, and your acidic adjustments, your tannin adjustments is more on the wine side versus us, where it's like IBUs is kind of like the bitter quality for beer. And our acidic levels is more like a lactic acid addition or a kettle sour, where you're putting in a culture of like lactobacillus.
And we got this girl, she's got her own water now, Chandeleur water. She got a Shandy water.
Oh yeah.
We just got done doing a water commercial, and then you did bring up that you can't brew beer with your 9.8 pH water.
Yeah. So yeah, for sure. So a lot of people ask me that, and like beer typically is a realm of 5.1 to 5.3. If you're talking sours, you're more of like a 3.2 to a 3.5. So using a 9.8 pH does nothing for you. That's why a lot of brewers will actually use reverse osmosis, which we consider as hydrating water, as naked water.
Yeah,
we don't want that kind of water to consume. So that kind of leads me to, you asked me why or how I got to this. My first degree was actually pre-professional biology, and I was studying to be some sort of surgeon or go into the medical field. And I did some internships, and I just realized it wasn't for me. So I sat on the couch and I was like, what do I want to do? I like making people happy. How can I make this process happen? And I used to steal my grandmother's Franzia Chilbel Red. And so I was like, I wonder if I could make wine for a living. I was like, that sounds legit. And I'm like, I'm sure this is something you have to be like grandfathered into, right? Turns out it wasn't. So I saved up while I was in Pensacola after I'd finished my degree, and I moved myself to California. Started over there and went through my whole thing in Australia, and then I moved over here, and there wasn't really a winery per se, so I got into beer, helped them with some of their issues going on and to make better product here. And then water came along, and that honestly put a new spark in my wheel, because not only now am I, giving somebody a cup of beer or a pint of beer that brings joy, helps reduce, depression, and also those hops have health benefits. I'm now able to give them a water that puts them back to stability and gets them hydrated and feeling good for the next day. So it's not a negative if you have 2 or 3 beers, it's not negative on your body as long as you're staying hydrated. So it brought another little, whoop, let's do this.
Now, how long did it take for you to make the decision to launch water? Because this guys, we're here at their spot, and back there's a whole team working, and I imagine it's a lot just to bring a product, because that you have to take part of your facility, and you got to put a team behind it, and these guys and girls here, it's a nonstop work. You're going to hear the noise; they're working.
Yeah.
That's how you get beer at Rouse's or these local, y'all are what, Louisiana,
Alabama.
Y'all Florida?
Not
Florida?
currently, no. And the whole state of Mississippi.
Big time in Hattiesburg too. We're down here in Gulfport where we live, but it's a similar line. So my thing was like, you have to really think about pulling the trigger on water, especially with all these competitors out there.
Yeah, so that's kind of where it started. The twins came to me and asked me if I could do it, and to be quite honest, I was shaking my head yes, and I had no freaking idea if I could. But I was like, I'm gonna do this, and I was telling you a little bit ago that I got my own alkaline machine at home, and I started working on how to make this a process. And if you look back there, we've only got 9 fermenters and 2 CT tanks. So I was like, how in the heck am I going to make this run on this production line and still be able to provide all the beers that we do? We've got a large variety here. And so I just looked at it, and now we are packaging beer one day, packaging water the next, and I've got a like superior team back there right now that are, hustling every day, and I couldn't do it without them.
What was the decision to do 16-ounce cans?
I mean, when you go to the grocery store, you usually get a water bottle that's about that size. If you were to have a 12-ounce can, you can crush that in a matter of seconds. You want something that you can still kind of sit and linger. But also the fact that 2 of these 16-ounce cans is equivalent to 1 gallon. So we wanted to make sure you're, getting the correct hydration if you were to purchase 1 or 2 of these.
I was actually shocked. Are you doing anything different with the can? I know you're probably little secrets behind it. But I popped that can open when I went to the beach, me and Emily, and of course, I was telling you, I've always had alkaline.
Yeah.
I enjoy it. We both enjoy it. We popped them cans open at the beach.
You heard it.
Oh, it was.
Yeah.
I heard it, and it was and the thing is, it wasn't super cold.
Yep.
And I finished that whole can.
To be honest, you're actually supposed to drink your water at room temperature. It's better for you. Not a lot of people do it. Not a lot of people like warm water, which is perfectly
water with
fine.
ice, though.
Yeah, exactly. I get that, especially if it's hot outside. Of course, you want a colder water. I'm not going to tell you my secret.
I know. I was going to try to get it out of you, but
no, but
I know it.
It is. This product is light sensitive and air sensitive, so the can was just like a perfect shoe-in for it. It repels some of that light, and also was able to capture everything inside to make sure air is not getting in.
From start to finish on this project, would you say a couple months?
Oh no.
How
It probably took about a year and a half, and I'm not kidding you, man. That last 2-3 months, I was trying to get approval because we have to get label approval for water, and that kept going back and forth nonstop. Marty Wilson put the image on here, and it's fantastic. It was a lot of team building, in order to get this actually out there. But it probably took me about a year and a half to 1.7.
Really?
Yeah. Start to finish, and I'm not kidding you, those last 3 months I was still like, it's not right. And finally I came in by myself, the whole cellar was gone, and I was like, all right, we're doing this, and everything was clicking.
How many batches did you have to make to get to where you wanted to be at?
So I really I've got a 2-barrel system back here, and I kept playing with that, to be honest, so I wasn't wasting too much product or anything like that. I did 2 or 3 runs with the 2-barrel, and we were getting some flex in the can, like uncomfortable, flexible, and I was like, that's not right. How do I fix this? And so I started evaluating all the options of what was different from what I did before, and finally I got there. Again, I'm not going to tell you every little nitpick that I went through, but
no, I'm not. You don't have to. I was just trying to get it out of you. I think it's a great can. So let's dive in. So what year did you make it to the coast?
Physically, me?
Yeah.
2017.
Okay, 2017. Okay.
Yep.
What do you like about this coast? I mean, you haven't left.
So I'll be honest, it took me 6 months to really feel it. I'm a Florida girl. We got beautiful beaches out there, Daytona, New Smyrna. You can surf a little bit if you wanted to. So it took me about 6 months to really get it, but like I said before, I came from California, and they didn't have crawfish, and I didn't realize how big of a staple that was for me, because I went to school in Pensacola first, and I lived there for 6 years. I was there at school for 4. And so I grew up with, crawfish around, and every time that season would come around, I'm like, I gotta get closer to home. I can't do this. Yeah. I'm like, where are my little guys at? So
I lived in Crestview. I went to school in Crestview, and I got homesick, and I came back here.
Yeah.
Because I lived in Florida, and my dad had a place in Perdido Key.
Yeah.
And I liked it over there, but it wasn't here when it comes to the food. I know Florida does have great food.
Yeah.
But I'm born and raised here, and similar with food. Food was a big thing for me.
Yeah.
To come back home.
Yeah.
Because I love fried foods. I love crawfish.
Southern, yeah.
I want to, you look at my weight. There's a reason why I look this way. It's the beer and the food.
Oh my gosh.
Man, every time I get somebody, they're like, "Oh, dude, you can have squash. You can do the squash pasta." No.
Yeah.
Nobody wants your squash noodles. That's a lie.
Give me the real deal.
Give me some, yeah. But no, I love that your first answer was crawfish, and so you made it here in 2017.
Made it here in 2017. So like I was saying, it took me 6 months. And finally somebody took me out on a boat. And I'm like, Florida girl in heaven, right? And they took me out on a boat, and they took me over to Horn Island. And I got out there and I saw 15 to 20 dolphins, crystal clear water, like looked like the Keys. And I saw all the boats lined up. And then I was like, I get it. Like I enjoyed all the nice locals here. Everybody was super friendly and very welcoming for me and my lifestyle. Oh, Freemason.
Are you?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I just, represent always.
So it was Horn Island for you.
It was Horn Island for me, yeah. And I'm hoping to get over to Cat Island and Chandeleur Islands and kind of see everything. But it was really getting off of the coastline and seeing the beauty of what Gulf Coast really is.
It's one of the things where, you do have the beauty, but also even we have look, I swim in the dark waters. Right?
Yeah.
But I love the food.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have it any other way. Like you get out there and it's nothing like going to sit on the beach and there's people shrimping.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a whole different ecosystem. But yeah, I did the same thing. I remember hitting Horn Island and just watching that water change.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay.
You're like, where did that come from?
Well, most of people, they don't really tell people all the time about Horn. Everybody's got a boat here. Almost everybody has a boat. And everybody goes to Horn.
Yeah.
And they hit that water and they're there every Saturday, Sunday. Summertime, it's weekly.
Yep.
It's not that much, it's not that far out, but that's funny that you were like, okay, I got my Florida water. Florida is gorgeous. And Florida, Florida does have its own style to it. Mm-hmm. I love the tacos in Florida.
I'll be honest, they have the beautiful waters, but I grew up in a small town called Lake County, which is like an hour north of Orlando. So tons of lakes. So I'm used to the dark water. It didn't scare me. Oh yeah, I'm not scared of any of that. But I was just like, if I'm gonna live on the beach, where's the crystal clear Pensacola white sand beach, And I finally found it, and that kind of made me, all right, I can do this.
Do you think you ever thought about leaving this place?
No, I found a human, and I think I'm good.
Oh, okay. Pretty cool human.
Yeah.
Hopefully we get her on the podcast.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Do it?
She might. Why not?
Yeah. You hear that? You're coming on. Do you want to give her name out?
No, it's not necessary.
Okay.
I'll let her do that if she decides.
Well, guys, if you ever see our merch is Crawfish and Beer, and if you ever see Crawfish and Beer and you see somebody wearing a flat bill, that's her. So I'm just letting you know she's one of the first ones that supported our brand. I'll tell you right now, she's one of the biggest supports. Not giving her name out, but you know who you are. I might pop your face up right here. She does the same thing. And that's what I love about her too. Is I love living on the coast, and some people can relate to me or not, but I go out to the beach.
Yeah.
I go with my family. I'm a coast rat. And she's a lot like that too. We make the best of the coast.
She is a social butterfly. I can barely keep up with her.
But
every time we go somewhere, she knows 500 people. And
Ocean Springs, the thing is you can go to Pascagoula and have a good time.
Yeah.
That's what I love about this place. And I've done this before. You can do, you go to Mobile. That's what I did. You go to Mobile. Go back to go to New Orleans, and then back on the coast, or go to New Orleans. So you get Mobile,
yep,
Biloxi, and then New Orleans for the night.
Mm-hmm.
Where can you do that?
Nowhere.
The change, the music, the culture, the food. They're not the same.
Yep.
And you're stepping into these new worlds. You go across to Mobile, downtown Mobile, whole different culture.
Yep.
You hit Biloxi, different culture. New Orleans, and I love that. I'm up
And Ocean Springs, don't forget about Ocean Springs. They're the little hoity-toity. That's their culture. It's
bring
clean
the house
and
market
crisp.
down, guys. Bring the house market down. All right? You got to bring the house market down in a little bit.
Yeah.
Now, I love Ocean Springs. I lived off of Halstead. Mm. So my mom lived in Latimer, which is exit 50 up. Mm-hmm. And then my dad lived in Ocean Springs. We lived off of Halstead, downtown Ocean Springs. And we lived in Culleoka.
Yeah.
So I grew up in both them spots. I love Ocean Springs. I think the house market's a little crazy. Okay? I think that a little more affordable houses would be nice.
It would be nice because I am house hunting right now, but...
But you're paying for location. Most of the people that live in Ocean Springs don't even go past Government Street.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are retired.
Which they're missing out if they're not going past Government Street, because there are some beautiful homes in Front Beach, East Beach. A lot of people don't know about East Beach.
Biloxi's coming up.
Yep.
You got to give that to Biloxi. That's what I like. You have Gulfport.
Yeah.
I hope they start developing more Airbnbs here. Get this going.
Yeah.
But you look at Ocean Springs, Then you got Biloxi. You got Fly Llama over there with Dave and them.
Yep.
And then you got Gulfport with you at Shandy.
Yep.
And it's like, watch the next 5 years. Watch Gulfport, especially if you do your rooftop. And I know that's been in the works for years, and that's not a hidden secret. You guys, if you watch this podcast, it's a little hint. They've been working on that for 2 or 3 years.
Yep.
And if they pull that off, it's going to change Gulfport.
Yep. What we did pull off is the lot back here.
Is it approved?
We're working on that. Oh yeah, the twins just got it and closed on it, and we're gonna call it Portyard. So you'll see, it's like gonna be a Connex beer garden. It's gonna be legit.
It's going to be cool for the run.
Yeah, legit.
When do you think that's going to go down?
It should be here before. We're hoping the next 2-3 months, putting some greenery out there, get some tables out there, kind of move the Connexes a little bit. The city actually of downtown Gulfport is putting a stage or amphitheater on one side, and then we'll have some trucks and spacing for vendors.
And we're going to have power?
Oh yeah.
We're going to have Mississippi Power's coming out and we're going to hook up or what?
Yeah, we'll be live.
I ain't gonna lie, I love this city. You know, and that's why I live in Gulfport.
Yeah.
And that's something I stand by. Like, and I see that, like, you know, Shandy was one of the first breweries down here.
Yeah.
And, you know, to watch growth. And you're seeing it like you see it with a Biloxi and Fly.
Yeah.
You just got to take them smaller steps. And sometimes you gotta do stuff. Some of these city officials, they got to get out of their comfort zone. They got to realize that people don't need the fanciest stuff. A beer, live music, some good food, which you have a food truck.
Yep.
And that's all people like. You want to be around your family. And that's what I love about here. Like when we do Shandy Fest like that, we bring our chairs. So if you always come out here, guys, bring your chairs. Especially we do events here, Shandy Fest, Pink Dress Fund, any events we do here. Bring your chairs. And just come hang out, and it's gonna blow your mind. And that's what I do love, and I'm excited about that. I heard about it. I didn't know y'all closed on it.
Oh, it's done deal. I mean, the city has been fantastic through any of our journeys
Who we
of
talking about,
rebuilding. All of them, I'm going to say, as a whole.
Jason?
All of them as a whole. The whole unit.
Ron Rowland for life. I do love Ron. I love them all.
Yeah.
I think that's something that's cool. I mean, I'm excited to see. When do you think? So here's my big thing. You know, the whole Bud Light thing's going down, and I mean, it's gonna be hard for them to bounce back. It really is. And I was talking to a guy that does Modelo. He's a salesperson for Modelo out of New Orleans. Been there for years.
Yeah.
And when he started the beer business, Bud Light wouldn't even. They just bought it because they had to buy it. But I didn't know that. It wasn't that beer. It was always Miller and Budweiser. And he was talking about Bud Light used to never be the beer. I mean, they just had to get the beer. And now you're looking at all this going on. Do you think it's been helping with all this beer stuff, domestic beers? Has it been helping the local beer scene?
Yeah, it has actually. You know, we've been kind of giving back as a community to help them and support them in any way, shape, or form, especially our distributors. It's a rocky conversation for me because, you know, it's sad that it's kind of gone in that direction because you never know what you're drinking and actually what the background is. So for them to do that and for people to have the opinions on, you know, Bud Light and what happened, sure, have them, but there's an entire family behind that production, you know, and that one person made a decision, not the entire family or not their grandchildren or great grandchildren. And I just, you know, hope people advise or learn to be cautious of what you're doing and how you're approaching things. And
that's how we had Ben Presk on the podcast, which he did Squidbillies on the art. And I was talking to Paul from Mitchell Distributing.
Yeah.
And then I was talking to Paul from FEB.
Yeah.
Paul owns FEB. Like, I mean, you know, and Paul, we were sitting at the award show, and Paul was like, Jordan, he goes, it could happen to any one of our brands.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's the team, it's the distributors. Like, you know, Mitchell Distributing has, like she said, they run off commission. The warehouses that distribute, and they took a hit, and they're coming back. I mean, they got other beers to do, but it did affect more than people know.
Yep.
Like, there's people that, you know, put it, when you go to the gas station, there's people that put it in the gas stations. It doesn't, you don't snap your fingers and it appears.
Yep.
And I tell people all the time, it's like, when all this stuff was going on, I started drinking. I had Bud Light on the show, and Mitchell Distributors gave us $100,000. Give me $100,000 to fight breast cancer. You think I'm going to say no?
Yeah.
Like, that's just me. I mean, and I'm with you on that. But my thing was like, you know, with all this going though, it kind of opened the market up for the local craft, because the local craft has a small percentage. People don't realize that. Like Samuel Adams, Yingling.
Yep.
They're still here versus always domestic here.
Yep.
Because it is, in the beer industry, it's all about shelf space. It's advertisement. It's retail. You know, when you walk into a grocery store like Rouse's, when you see that 12-pack of beer in them cans, it's set up as retail. You don't want to be the can on the bottom shelf.
Yep.
You know that. Because there's some beers that you've had that you've made that have been amazing, but it never had the correct space.
Yep.
And it's never caught that trend. I mean, everything's got to catch a small trend.
Yep.
We've seen that with seltzers.
Yep.
What do you think about seltzers?
I'm not gonna lie, I do partake in a seltzer here and there. I enjoy the low calorie. You know, I don't enjoy the extract addition that's put into a seltzer typically. So any seltzers that I produce, it's all natural fruit, no extracts whatsoever. Same with my beer. So that part of the seltzer life I don't enjoy. As far as how it's going in the market, I totally see it. We're in a health kick, right?
Cut like this, right there.
We're in a health kick right now. You know, I'm out here producing a low cal beer. Like the more lower calorie, weight defined beers and beverages like seltzers, the better right now. Just, you know, because everybody's trying to get a hold of themselves and be better. Yeah, so I wouldn't say anything bad about them. They're not really necessarily something I enjoy to produce. Kind of a wet blanket.
I'm not a seltzer. I can have one or two seltzers here and there.
Yeah.
I'm honest. You ask me, and you're gonna laugh. One of my favorite beers, before it was trendy, has always been Busch Light.
Yeah.
But for me, if I can't find it, you know that.
Yeah.
And then for me, it's always been Freemason. And
Yeah.
You know that too. Like that's, I mean, if I can't get hands on a Freemason, I remember having my first Freemason and doing the flip flop, and that was Curlew's. It's like 75% Freemason or 80% Freemason, 20% Curlew's.
And they float it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
oh my
remember
God.
that.
But yeah, you look at that situation where it's like, I'm okay with talking about, like, you know, when I looked at Busch Light one time, it's 90 calories. And Ultra is 95 calories.
Yep.
And Ultra sold as the weight loss beer.
Yep.
When it's actually 5 more calories than their other beer they have.
Yep. And I'll be honest, so the low-cal beer I'm doing right now, it's the same thing as like seltzers. I just, as a creator or, you know, to find inspiration behind that sort of product, it's not very, I don't enjoy doing it. You know, there's really a lack of creativity in that world. But the health side of it, going back to the water and all of those sort of things, I get it. So that part of it, I'm behind it.
What, how hard is it to slim to shave the calories off of beer? It's got to be really hard to pain.
So you're putting in more rice, you know, flaked wheats, minimal malt. It's a lot of water, and your alcohol is going to go to like a 3.5. Tons of water. It's very minimal malts and corn and rice and all of that. So that just gives you like a tinge of flavor, and then it just
and you got to go back and test
so you get
it.
a little bit of alcohol and a little bit of flavor, but it's never like, you can't put oomph into it. So I'm creating a key lime pie sour right now, and you know that baby's got victory malt in it, like cream cheese powder, lactose, key lime, you know, and just loads of good stuff and components that probably aren't healthy, but man, does it taste like a key lime pie. And that right there, I'm like, I did it. That's fun for me.
Yeah.
You know.
When's it dropping?
That is coming out next month. So I'm really excited about it.
How do you come up with names?
Well, it really just depends. This one just kind of floated out because I wanted a new sour, and we actually got some lime juice in, and I was like, well, what can I do with that? And so that's kind of where this stemmed to. But Whamma's coming up, and we're releasing that one in October, which I get really pumped about Whamma.
Can you tell people what Wham is? I know what it is.
Walter Anderson.
Yeah. A lot of people don't know what it is.
Oh, man. Well, if you ever have the opportunity to go to Ocean Springs, go check out the Walter Anderson Museum. It is phenomenal. He is a fantastic artist.
I've actually been there, and with my buddy Scott from Hops and Growers, and he kicked everybody's ass at, it was really cool, they had a local beer kickoff.
Yeah.
And you paid to get in, and you know Scott.
Yeah.
He's on another, he's just, like, that's like, I tell people all the time, I was like, you want to meet Morpheus? Go meet Scott. And they're like, I met him. He's just different. I'm like, that's Scott. Like, that's Scott. Like, because Scott's not going to, he's just, I mean, love him to death, but he's brewing his beer. You want to drink his beer? You can. If you don't,
Yeah.
he don't even have a sign on his front door. You know that?
Yeah.
He took the sign off.
Did he really?
Yeah. Yeah, it's serious. No, I started like seeing
I
that.
thought it was leaning up against the building the other day.
No, that's his so that's his old bar top when he was on Cook Road.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He took his sign was there and he took it off and turned it into a bike where you put your bicycles.
All right.
So if you ever see where the bicycle was, that's where his sign was. He took it out.
He's like, if you know, you know.
If you know
here.
who I am, you know who I am.
Yeah.
Get Untapped. Yeah. Is that what it's called?
Yeah,
What's that?
Untapped. Yeah.
I mean, there's a big culture too with the beer thing. Like, I'm not really accepted in that. Well, I am accepted by y'all because of me being a part of it with y'all for years. That's my experience behind it. And people get kind of upset because they're like really diving beers with me. And I like IPAs also. Like, I'm moving IPAs. When I first started going though, stouts. And then I moved here I mean, my parents bought me a Grower, so it's like $300. So everybody sees it and they think I'm an expert. And reality is I barely know how to work that thing.
Yeah.
To me, it's fill it up with beer. I always look at this is what I love about a local brewery. And then y'all can steal my idea if y'all want. It's fine. But go get a Grower. Come here, get a Grower. Get it filled up. If you ever got like a wedding event, baby shower, family time, get one or two 32-ounce Growers. And different flavors. Get a stout and get a lighter beer.
Or you can get a keg. We also have, pumps for you guys to do that too.
Level up first. Do the Grower first.
Okay.
Do the Growers first. And then just bring them as gifts. And see.
Okay, so you're headed.
Yeah, so that's what I would do. I do.
Yeah.
Like, I bring them and I set them down, and the people can just drink off of them.
Oh, that's awesome.
And it's like, hey, here's some local brews. I remember, this is how I got into Shandy, I was director of Blowfly around that time you started, because me and you met, and I would that's how I really got close with Cam and everybody. Like, I would have y'all's beer in, y'all's Freemason, and I would take a little sampler sip, and you asked for a Bud Light or a Miller. The servers that was their one thing they had to ask them, would you like to try a local beer? And it'd be a little mouthwash fill up, and they give it to them. And if they tried that, we convert them. And that's what I started doing. That was one of my first marketing things. That
you were the converter. Is that what you're saying?
I converted. I converted. I always wanted to do that. Like,
That's awesome.
We sold Freemason. That's how. And then Cam would come out, and that's how kind of thing is like. There's a lot of always domestic beers, but I always went after. Hey, I tell the girls, hey, if they're asking for a domestic, tell them there's a beer right here in Gulfport, and give them a try. And look, I mean, it was probably a 50-50. The moment you had a Freemason, and you're like, okay, and there's nothing like a Freemason draft.
That's because they can taste the corn, they can taste the malt backbone. It has flavor to it versus something that has very minimal malts put into it.
I mean, that's what I love about that. The local touch too, because when you're moving to a corporate world, you're not like it's not your baby. I mean, it's not your baby, as these like y'all. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of work goes behind this, and y'all. I mean, everybody thinks, oh yeah, they're making a killing off of distribution, and it's not that way with y'all.
Yeah.
I mean, y'all still operate a brewery that you come here and you can do You got trivia, right? Got trivia. There's always music. There's you're doing stand up yet?
Oh yeah.
All right. The GM, Gina's over there, so if you want to come on, you can. But they do a lot of stuff here, and then this tap room and they got flights.
Yeah.
You got to experience it. But with that saying, you got anything else to say?
No, thanks for having me on here.